Hello and welcome back to the world of cybersecurity. I still remain Undubeze Blessing Oluchi, your instructor for the duration of this course. Now moving to Module 2. In today's increasingly interconnected and digital world, it is more important than ever to understand the different types of attacks, threats, and risks that can compromise the security of our systems and data. This module covers understanding attacks, threats, and risks in cybersecurity, the different examples of common attack, threats, and risks, different scenarios of common attacks, threats, and risks in the educational sector. In this module, we'll explore the meaning of attacks, threats, and risks in cybersecurity. We're going to talk about the difference and the similarities between all of them and examples of each. By the end of this lesson, you will gain a deeper understanding of how to protect against these security threats and why it is very crucial to stay informed and vigilant in the ever-evolving landscape of cybersecurity. Let's get started. What is attack? A cyber attack refers to an intentional attempt to harm or disrupt a computer, system, network, or data. It refers to a deliberate attempt to compromise the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of a system or network by an unauthorized user. It is important to know that attacks can come in different forms and can be executed through a variety of techniques, but it is always aimed at causing harm. That is the primary objective of an attack, to cause harm. Understanding the different types of attacks is important in order to recognize them and implement measures to prevent them accordingly. Now we're going to look at the different types of cyber attacks. This is a list of the most common attacks that users in the educational sector need to be aware of. These are attacks that basic users and people coming into the cybersecurity world for the first time need to know about. Social engineering. This is the use of psychological manipulations to trick users into making security mistakes or giving away sensitive information, also known as human hacking. It lures unsuspecting victims, users, into exposing data, spreading malware, infections, or other assets, and giving access to restricted systems, especially to unauthorized users. Examples of common techniques that can be used to social engineer a victim or a user includes phishing. What is phishing? Phishing is a type of social engineering attack where the attacker sends fraudulent messages, especially via electronic mail or a website, that is designed to trick a person into revealing sensitive information to the attacker or to deploy malicious softwares on the victim's infrastructure. Phishing is usually targeted at individuals to make them release their details. Phishing has so many types of phishing. It can be targeted at specific individual or group, that is known as spear phishing. It can be targeted at a particular high net individual or high net worth individual, which is called whaling. These different types of phishing is centered around making the victim prone to releasing sensitive details that they wouldn't normally release. Shoulder surfing. This is the process or act of observing, either directly or indirectly, when a user or a person is inputting their passwords or looking at sensitive or confidential files. Shoulder surfing, as can be seen, is when a friend, an unknown person who is standing super close to you, behind you, beside you, but stylishly looking at what you're doing. It can be while you're inputting your password, drawing your phone pattern or your device pattern, or even accessing critical and sensitive information or details on your devices. This individual pretends to not be looking sometimes, or even blatantly stares at your screen to see you input all these details. Phishing. Just as phishing is concerned with electronic mails and using websites, phishing is the process of getting fraudulent or suspicious calls from individuals pretending to be who they are not, in order to get the victim to release their details, release sensitive information, or give funds or give money to them. Phishing is usually over the phone and is by call. Smishing. Smishing is another type of social engineering technique that is carried out via SMS. Just like we can see here, this user gets an SMS that says you have won $5,000. The prize needs to be claimed as soon as possible. Please reply with your bank information so we can deposit the money into your account. It is very important to note that phishing, smishing usually come with a sense of urgency. They always promise monetary rewards to the victims or make it sound too good to be true. Usually, when you see information or details that are too good to be true, or that has undertone of exaggerated rewards, these are usually techniques that can be used to get people to release their details or provide sensitive information to the attacker. Malware. This is another type of malicious software that is designed to control a computer system without the owner's consent. Malwares are designed to steal data, delete files, damage, disrupt, or take over the victim's computer. Some of the most common malware include viruses. A computer virus is a type of malware that is designed to attach itself to replicate and spread from one computer to another. It often attaches itself to legitimate programs, files, or documents, and can cause damage to the computer system or network. A key factor and feature to note about virus is that it is designed to attach itself. A virus cannot replicate without it attaching itself to either a computer program, a computer file, or something document that is being sent via the computer system or network. Worms. A computer worm is a type of malware that spreads over a network and can replicate itself without any user's intervention. It can cause damage by consuming network bandwidth, overloading servers, and spreading other malware. A distinguishing factor between worms and viruses is that though both of them act in the same way by spreading and causing damage, a worm can replicate itself without any user's intervention. That is, it doesn't need to attach itself to any program or any file. Once it infects a computer, it can spread over the computer any network that is connected to an infected computer. A good example would be the Morris swarm that we talked about in our module 1, which spread from one computer to another and in a very short period of time transferred and spread to millions of computers, causing system downtime, damages, and complete shutdown of numerous systems. Another example of a malicious software is what we call a Trojan, also known as a Trojan horse. This is the type of malware that disguises itself as a legitimate program or file but contains malicious code. An example would be the one in history class where we describes how the Greek soldiers were able to take the city of Troy after a fruitless 10-year siege. And how were they able to do this? By hiding in a giant horse that was supposedly left as an offering to the goddess of Athena. What this means is that a Trojan comes in form of being legitimate for a particular reason or for a different reason. Meanwhile, it has other undercover codes or undercover functions that it also carries out. Once it is executed, it can give a hacker unauthorized access to the system or network. Another example of Trojan can be when you download a game or you download a movie or you download a file from the internet and find out that it installs other type of files or other type of software that starts giving you or start popping up ads or start giving you unsolicited apps, installation of other apps. A Trojan horse would always disguise itself like something and also come with other things that are not mentioned at the first instance. A rootkit. A rootkit is a type of malicious software that is designed to hide its presence on a computer system or network. It can be used to steal sensitive information, monitor user activities, and take control of the system. A very important factor or feature of rootkits is that they are often difficult to detect and remove, as opposed to Trojans, viruses, and worms that can be easily detected with a virus scan or with an antivirus software. Rootkits affect the operating system of your device and makes it impossible to detect at first glance or at first scan. Ransomware. This is a type of attack that encrypts the victim's files or locks the victim out of their computer and demands a ransom payment in exchange for restoring access. It is very important to know that for ransomware, the victim gets locked out. Access is denied to the owner, the real owner of a system, of a network, of a resources, except payment is made. It causes the victim to lose their access to important files, data, resources, and sometimes even the system itself. It is very important to note that payment of the ransom, as dictated by the hacker or the attacker, does not guarantee restored access by them or that they will not attack again. Once exposed to ransomware, it is very important, as advised, to clear your system, format it, and start over, because there might be other underlying codes or files left by the attacker to get access again to your system. So payment of ransom does not guarantee safety from the attackers coming back or from other hackers getting access to your system. Ransomwares, malicious softwares, and attacks can be delivered through various techniques. Some of these include malicious links. The use of links from different websites or different resources that are not verified or that are not safe is one major technique used by attackers and hackers to get access to systems. They send this link unsolicitedly to users or to individuals to see if anybody will fall victim and click on this link so that they can get access, or click on this link so that they can fish their information and details from there. So malicious link is a very common way and technique used by attackers. Attachments and documents sent. Receiving attachments or documents from unrecognized sources or from individuals or places where you're not sure of is another major way or technique that attackers use to send out ransomware, viruses and trojans so as to get access to victim system. It is very important to note that receiving documents from sources you're not sure of or individuals you're not sure of needs to be scrutinized and made to go through different processes to verify or authenticate their sources. Shared files or software. Sharing files from one system, from one network, from one device to another is another way to get or to be exposed to these attacks by these attackers and hackers. It is very important to know that files and software should be gotten from verified sources or from the vendors of this software so that you can get the original versions of this software. Receiving software from individuals you're not sure of is one way and technique that you can get exposed to different malicious softwares. Having downloads and orders. Download is one major way in which viruses are delivered to system. Getting free downloads for movies, songs, files, or even resources is one way that threat actors and hackers get to spread malicious softwares, spread ransomware attacks, and even make it to get to fish for information and so much more on the victims. It is very important to know that all these techniques are the major and most common ones and are not limited to what attackers can employ to get access to your system. Spyware. This is a software designed to collect information from a user without their knowledge or consent. As the name implies, spyware is used to gather information, details about individuals without their knowledge, without them being aware of it being done or taking place. The information gathered can be used to extort or blackmail the victim, gain remote access to the victim's system or network, steal sensitive information such as passwords, credit card numbers, and so much more, monitor activities, location, communication, and details of the victim, provide unauthorized access to unknown users, install malware or other unwanted software on the victim system, and conduct other malicious activities. Looking at this, these are the type of information that can be gathered by a spyware. The information gathered can be used to extort or blackmail the victims, get them to do things that they don't want to do based on the files and the resources that are in possession, that the attacker or hacker is in possession of. They use the information and the access gotten with the spyware to gain remote access to the victim's systems and network, and from there they can also transcend into other connected networks to the victim system. They steal information such as passwords, credit card numbers, login details, and information of the victims. They monitor the activities, they monitor the locations, they monitor the communications that is going on with the victim and other parties. They provide unauthorized access to unknown users. They can sell the access that they receive or they get from a particular victim to another person. They use it to install other malwares and all other unwanted software to get more robust access, more robust connections within the victim system. And they can use it to conduct other malicious activities like stealing a victim's identity and using it for fraud and so much more. All these are what the information gathered can be used by a hacker or an attacker. The information usually targeted by spywares include the browsing history and search inquiries or queries of the victims, the keystrokes, what they are typing into their systems or devices, and every other activities of what they are typing, how they are typing, and where or what they are typing into, their login credentials, their PIN, their password, their patterns, and different login to different websites or different resources, their files and documents and resources in the computers. This can be project files, this can be assignment files, this can be exam records or student grades, or even student information, family information, and personal details. The microphone and camera usage, and many others. It is very important to note that different spyware is able to target different types of information. We have more robust spyware that is able to track and get informations that include all types, and we have spyware that are specific to different types of information, like maybe microphone and camera usage to a particular spyware, and we have spyware that is centered on just getting the keystrokes of a victim. It is very important to note that it is not easily detectable without scanning for this spyware to see and know what type of spyware or what type of information is being gotten by this spyware, because the spyware gets access to the system and send all this information and details remotely to the attacker or the hacker. Other type of attacks open to individuals and users in the educational setting includes denial of service attack. These are attacks that prevent legitimate users from being able to access information systems, devices, or other network resources due to the actions of a malicious threat actor. These affected services can include email, websites, online accounts, or other services that rely on the affected computers or network. This is when users of a particular website, of a particular platform, of a particular emailing address or emailing system cannot access their account. An example will be students being unable to check their profile on the system because they can't access the website. Due to the fact that universities and educational sector as a whole is embracing the use of digital services like cloud, mobile, and online services more often, and the fact that majority of the systems do not give priority to security of valuable personal identifiable information that can be sold on the dark web, it is no wonder that educational sector continues to see a significant increase in denial of service attacks, where attackers get access to websites and prevent users from being able to access these resources. Another attack or common attack in the educational scene is password attacks. There are different types of attacks that can happen on an individual password. Two of the most common include the brute force attack. This is the use of common words or common phrases and common ideas of what an individual can use for their password and try it continuously on a system or a device or an account in order to gain access to that resource. Another example of password attack is the dictionary attack. This is the use of words from the dictionary by repeatedly trying them to try to guess or try to get access to an account. There are other types of password attack like the birthday attack, trying to use or guess the birthday of an individual or the birthday of a person. All these and many more are the type of different attacks that can be used on password, and most times these attackers use a combination of different types of attacks on a particular victim or a particular system. Another type of attack faced in the educational system is the hoax type of attack. This attack is a pretentious one where a non-existing attack or non-existing situation is made to appear like it is real. Example being causing panic that a website is not accessible so that people will log off that website, or a website has been hacked so that people can log off that website and free up the website for an individual or the attacker to have free access without connection problems. Hoaxes do not exist. They are pretentious and used to confuse or draw away resources, draw away users' attention from the main problem. We've discussed extensively on what attacks are. Now we're going to move to threats. A threat refers to any potential danger that could impact a computer system, network, or data. A threat is the possibility of a violation or exploit to a system vulnerability. This simply means that threat is that possibility and probability that something bad will be exploited in a system. This is the potential danger that your system could be breached, that something negative could affect your system, or something in your system, your network, could be exploited. A vulnerability, something that is not going on well or right, could be exploited. We have different types of threats. The three types are intentional threats, unintentional threats, and natural threats. Intentional threats. These are actions carried out with intent. They are planned and prepared for. They can be carried out by both insiders, that is, someone you know, and outsiders, that is, an anonymous person. The motives can vary widely for intentional threats, ranging from financial gain in terms of ransomware attacks received by users or victims, to political activism, or simply a desire to cause chaos and problems for the user. Intentional threats are carried out with intent. They are carried out they are premeditated by the attacker or the hacker. They are done in order to either get something out of it or just for the pleasure of carrying out or causing chaos. Unintentional threats. These threats are usually considered human errors and happen per chance. They are not planned for. They are things that happen as a result of forgetting or somebody not doing what they are supposed to do, and they happen per chance. For example, forgetting to update the firewall or an antivirus could make a system more vulnerable and be open to attack. Examples of unintentional threats include human error. This can include accidental deletion of files or misconfiguring security settings. This can happen with forgetting or not knowing the right way or the right processes to take when installing a particular package or installing a particular security settings. They are accidental and not carried out with intent. Software bugs. These are unintended flaws in the software. They can create security vulnerabilities. Forgetting to update software, forgetting to use the correct version or get the correct version of a particular software that has been updated are all examples of unintentional threats that have software bugs. Physical accidents. These accidents, such as spilling coffee on a computer or dropping a device that can damage it and compromise security, all these are accidents that can happen at the spur of the moment without premeditation. Malfunctioning hardware. Hardware failure can result in data loss or system downtime. The possibility of not having a maintenance man or a maintenance person to be able to take care of this data loss or this system downtime is another example of an unintentional threat. Malfunctioning hardware. Social engineering. While they are all intentional, they rely on the manipulation of individuals to accidentally compromise themselves. Social engineering does not happen if the user or if the victim is aware. It happens unconsciously through persuasion, and the victims get to release details and confidential files or resources they are not supposed to release. The activity or the act of it being accidental to compromise themselves is what makes this an unintentional threat. Risk. What is risk? This refers to the likelihood of a threat having a negative impact on a computer system, network, or data. The intersection of threat, assets, and vulnerability is what brings about risks. Cyber risks is the intersection of assets, threats, and vulnerabilities. It is also the potential for loss or damage when a threat takes advantage of a vulnerability. Remember, we talked about how threats can be intentional, unintentional, and natural. An unintentional threat where a user forgets to update their system, and this vulnerability of the system being open to attack is now being used, means that there is a high risk for the potential for loss or damage in such a situation. Threat is that new incident with potential to harm a system. Example, not updating your firewall, not using an antivirus, or being social engineered or susceptible to being social engineered. And when you add this with known weaknesses that hackers will exploit, an example being having a system that you do not know how to operate very well, you're vulnerable to that, you're not aware of the new update, and having a software that has software bugs. When you bring this together, it gives a high potential for damage when this threat is being exploited. Risks. What do you need to know and what you can do to protect yourself from risks? There are 4 major ways to respond to risks. We have the accept, avoid, reduce, and transfer methods. To avoid cyber risks, a user ensures they only visit trusted websites and refrain from clicking on suspicious links or downloading unknown files. This translates to carrying out preventive measures that would help you protect yourself, protect your resources, your infrastructure, and your systems. Ensuring that you don't click on websites you don't trust, ensuring that you don't download from links that you don't trust, or ensuring that you don't share files or receive files from links or unknown sources. These are examples of how to avoid cyber risks. To transfer cyber risks, this is the use of insurance to transfer the financial burden of a cyber attack to the insurer. To reduce cyber risks, a user implements security controls such as firewalls, antivirus software, and intrusion detection system to reduce the likelihood and impact of a cyber attack. Knowing these threats and knowing the vulnerability of your system and taking proactive measures to implement security protocols and mechanisms that would help your system and help put you at lower risk is what we call the reduced cyber risk approach. This is when you take proactive measures to ensure that being exposed or your exposure to cyber risks is at a minimum. To accept cyber risks, this is when a user recognizes that there may always be some level of risk in using technology and accepts that risk as a part of their daily activities. Now we're going to talk about the different examples of common attack, threats, and risks in the educational sector. We're going to be looking at real life scenarios of how attacks can come, threats can come, and how risks are, or how we can be exposed to risks in our daily or in carrying out our activities. In the educational system, we have different users. We have our administrators, our learners, our teachers, our instructors, the evaluation process. There are so many processes, so many resources, so many technologies that go into the educational sector. All of these open us and open the users to different types of attacks and threats and make the risks high when the users are not aware of all this. Now we're going to look at different scenarios and you're going to try and merge them. We have some options below the screen that would be able to, that each of them match to one type of scenario with only one wrong answer. Go through this and see if you can merge them. Did you get them? Now we're going to look at all the scenarios and the answers to it. A teacher notices that the computer is running slow and suspects it may be infected with malware. They run an antivirus scan but it doesn't detect anything. After further investigation, they discover a strange software that is using large internet bandwidth. This is a typical example of a rootkit. If you remember, we discussed how a distinguishing factor of rootkits is that it is not easily detected with antivirus scans and anti-malware scans. Usually they affect the operating system of the computer and need further investigation to be discovered. A student steals the teacher's login credentials by watching them input their password while assisting with printing, then uses these stolen credentials to access the teacher's profile and cheat on an exam. This is a typical example of shoulder surfing. While the teacher was using or logging into their profile, the student pretended to be helping to print and was able to watch them input their password. Use that same password that they got to log into the teacher's profile in order to get the exam answers and cheat on that exam. A severe thunderstorm hits the area around the school, causing a power surge that damages the school computer equipment and causes data loss. This is an example of a natural threat, as a thunderstorm cannot be controlled and it happens by chance. A student receives a call from someone pretending to be from the school IT department. asking for their login details to upload results. The student shares the information but later discovers that they can no longer access their profile on the school website. This is an example of phishing. Remember, we said that phishing is a type of social engineering that happens on a call, where somebody calls pretending to be another person to get you to release details or release confidential information. This is a typical example of what phishing can happen or can come as. Now we're going to look at another round of examples. Can you merge them? Did you get them correct? Now let's look at the answers and the scenarios together. A student downloads a free game from an untrusted website on her school computer. The game installs another program that runs in the background, resulting in numerous ad pop-ups. The student eventually notices that the computer is running slower than usual and files are starting to go missing. Suddenly, the computer crashes and the student loses all their important schoolwork and data. This is a very typical example of what a Trojan represents. Remember, it looks like a legitimate program, it looked like a legitimate game, but the game was able to install another program which was a adware that was causing numerous ads to pop up. Now this shows us how a Trojan works and gives us a real life scenario of what a Trojan can do. Moving forward, we have threat plus vulnerability. This is a very easy one, is risk. A teacher receives an email with a link to a survey. Clicking on the link unknowingly downloads a malware that starts to replicate itself across the school network, causing it to slow down and potentially crash. This is an example of what we call a worm. Just like the Morris worm of 1980, this was able to replicate itself across the school network without attaching itself to any program, any file, or any system. A student receives an email from an unknown sender claiming to be a school official, warning them of a virus outbreak on the school network and asking them to forward the mail to all their contacts. The student shares this email as requested, only to find out later that it was a false alarm and that they unintentionally spread misinformation to others. This is a very clear example of a hoax. This is something that doesn't exist and is set to drag attention, resources, and the victims' know-how or time away from an actual problem or even an actual situation. All these examples are real-life scenarios and ways in which attack, threats, and risks can affect an educator or anyone in the educational scene. Here are some important things you have learned. We talked about the concept of attack. We introduced what attack is, threats, and the risks in cybersecurity. All this mentions the major and most common of the attack, threats, and risks in cybersecurity that affects educational users and educators. We also looked at how to distinguish between specific attack, threats, and risk. We looked at the similarities between attacks, threats, and risk. We also looked at examples of attack, threats, and risks and other factors in relation to the educational scene, looking at different scenarios and their answers and how it can also be replicated in education.